Hi, this is Team 23 on the Managing Type 2 Diabetes project, and this is sprint number 6, which is a development status update. So we'll jump in really quick. On the agenda, we're going to talk about our dev process, give you an update of the current things that we're doing moving forward, as well as an updated Gantt chart. And then we'll also talk, we'll have a demo of the back-end part of our presentation, of our application. And then we'll jump into the front end in the next update, although we do have a front end that is running locally. So for dev process, we met this week as a team, both on Slack and through WebEx. We continually to exchange information on our Slack channel. Our Slack channel is very well used. So we've made significant progress on the front end. We've uploaded that to our team GitHub location. The front end is running successfully right now and locally. And then we're working on integrating that with our back end right now. So that's probably our biggest task right now, is getting those two to talk. But then on our back end, as we're talking about, we did make significant process on our Spring Boot database, and the details are going to be outlined by Anand in the coming slides. So then the last couple of things is we began working on our deployment through our values.yaml, our drone.yml, and our Dockerfile updates. We still are getting errors here, but that's just because we haven't updated all of our configuration yet. So finally, we're going to be completing loose ends on the research front and getting ready for our final deployment and wrapping up loose ends in the coming weeks. So if you look at our Gantt chart, we're green across the board. Looking forward, like I said, we're going to be looking to integrate our back end and front ends. We're going to be completing our test cases to make sure we can deploy this accurately every time. Working on deploying our app through our GitHub account and through Docker. And then we're continuously updating our documentation. So with that, we'll jump into Anand, who will give you a demo of where we currently are at in our back-end development.
Hello all, this is Anand Batina. I'm going to demonstrate a back-end part of the project which we are working on, that is managing type 2 diabetes. So if I jump into technical details, here we have a bunch of mock-up screens we developed, and each page would call some REST endpoint to perform updates and inserts. So the login page would need a REST endpoint to authenticate a user. Um, okay, so if you look at my IntelliJ here, you must be seeing some REST endpoints which we expose to the web app to consume and perform updates and insights. So I start my application here. As soon as I start my application, my H2 database will be up, and I can able to fetch data from the database. So I did mock up some data, so that's why we are able to see some data right here. There are we have some other tables actually where we store the metadata. For example, it's a date timing where we could see, during the different time of the day, the user can select an option from the UI and can enter blood glucose levels. So I'm going to show these are my REST endpoints here. I'm going to call them from the Postman and demonstrate how the web page would perform all these code operations. So for an example, it's a login page. So if the user enters a username and password, the username as the patient ID and password is date of birth, and then this REST endpoint internally calls a file database and validate a user based on the data available in the file database. So let's say if I use a different date of birth, either 2017 or something, written as a false, so it doesn't authenticate in that case. I have a bunch of other REST endpoints which give I mean, static data from the database. So it's providing all the data. I mean, same data would be displayed on the UI for the user to select different options. So I have another REST endpoint here to fetch the daily history of the patient's blood glucose levels. So I'm not getting anything since I haven't entered anything for the patient. So here I have a REST endpoint to add patient glucose level for the particular time of the day. So it's a 200 means it's success. If I go back to the previous REST endpoint, if I call it, I should be getting the information whatever I saved. So like this. And I do have another REST endpoint which gets the total history of the average history of the patient's glucose level for a day. So if I hit it, it calculate the average blood glucose levels and provide that for different days. If I have record for multiple days, I should be getting multiple records here. So this part of this response is for a different page to track the patient's date information. So this is static data. For example, we added some static data for the rice, the different calories and all this information. Um, so I'm going to get the date information for the patient. Since I don't have any information in the database, I'm not getting anything. I'm going to add some date information for the patient. So the food items, one is rice, so and the portion and the date and the patient ID. I'm going to save to database. So 200 success. If I go back to the previous endpoint, if I call it, I should be getting the information whatever I saved into database. So this is what it is. And I have another REST endpoint which gets the total history of that date for different days. So on March 14th, today, the patient entered like 417 calories, something. So I have like three or four different REST endpoints for the exercise tracking. So these REST endpoints provide static data for the UI to display different exercise types. So I'm going to call this REST endpoint to get the patient's exercise daily history. Since the patient doesn't have anything, so it's not getting anything. If I call these, so since I just added some information for the patient, if I go back to the previous session point, if I call it, I should be getting some information for that patient. In a similar way, I have a REST endpoint to fetch the history for different days for the patient. So since I entered for one day and I'm getting the total calories burned for March 14th. So we implement all this response in the until now. So